Welcome back aboard. Fishing for boat improvement? Well, you caught it right here at ShipShape TV.
This is the Monterey. It's our 57-foot custom sport fish that we want to put a new teak and holly floor into the hallway. What I have in my hand is a template for half of that hallway. It kind of offsets. The setup is we have a current teak and holly sole going past the galley. We have 3 carpeted steps down to the hallway, and then we have carpeting running down this jogged hallway. And what we want to do is we want to use some of this veneered world panel products. This is a 1/2-inch thick piece of marine grade plywood with a teak and holly veneer over top of it, and it's much more user friendly than individually gluing all of these pieces of wood together using epoxy. And speaking of that material, that leads us to our next expert guest, who we have the real privilege of having back on the program is my very dear friend. This is J.B. Curl. J.B. is the owner of Mass Epoxies, or Maz Epoxy, depends on what area of the country you live in. You have different pronunciations for the company, kind of like potato and potato.
Just call us, John.
Just call you. But J.B., thank you for coming down in order to oversee the project. Now, we need to remove the carpeting, we need to roll up all of the padding so that we can start taking some measurements for door skin patterns and all of that. But I'm noticing that the subfloor, JB, is painted. It is plywood, but it's painted. What do we have to do to it prior to laminating the new flooring onto that deck?
Well, John, I took a look at the floor, and the first thing we're going to want to do is remove all those staples off of the floor that was being used to hold down that carpeting, get any nails or any of that kind of thing up. Then we're going to use some 36 grit paper and a palm sander. We're going to knock a lot of that paint down and get some wood underneath. Because when we bed this down, we want the epoxy to be the bare wood. We don't want it on top of paint. Paint's a weak link in trying to glue something together. So we don't have to get it all off, but we just want to get it knocked down so we've got some bare wood to glue to.
Have a couple of challenges that we want to address. We have door casings that go all the way down to the subfloor. We also have a lip that's sticking out of one of the heads, maybe 4 or 5 inches. And Terry Ragg, who's on staff with us, is probably our best carpenter. Terry seems to think that if we use a chalk line, we snap a chalk line, maybe come back with a wood chisel, we can score it, and then we can kind of remove that lip that's sticking into the hallway. We want everything to kind of set flush. Okay. He also came up with the idea of maybe cutting into the casings on the doors, on the door jambs, or on the casings themselves with an air saw, taking it up just a little higher than this 1/2 inch. That's the thickness of our world panel product right here. But kind of cut into those door casings, that way we can start the patterning material. Now I was showing everybody one side of the pattern. What are we using here as patterning material rather than just paper?
Well, this is Luan, I believe, and Terry cut it into 2-inch strips so you guys could lay it down in place and make the outline and put your braces in here. And you used a hot glue gun just to glue it together, real simple. And then you could bring it out of the boat and down here onto the plywood.
Okay, we're trying to get our entire hallway, which is offset, onto one sheet. This is 4 foot by 10 foot long. That's a little different. Most panels are only 8 foot long.
Right.
World Panel offers us in 10 foot long materials. And guys, bring in the other sheet. What we want to do here is we want to flip the other side of the hallway around so that we can have it all laid out on one sheet. Now, I'm noticing that Terry put down some masking tape. What's that for?
Well, the masking tape's going to protect the plywood from splintering when he cuts it. You know, we want to use the sharpest tools that we have. It makes the job a lot easier, but this still may splinter, so you put some tape down first and that will prevent that.
Okay, now what we've got to do is use a combination of circular saws along with jigsaws to make all of our cuts. Got to make sure that you have the right blades there. But once we do have everything cut out, we want to take it into the boat in order to do a dry fit. Now, we are using 2 pieces and we're kind of butting them up to get that offset for the hallway.
Right.
I don't want to see a seam.
Yeah.
How are we avoiding the seam, JB?
Well, when we bed these down in the epoxy, the 2 pieces will come together fairly closely and the epoxy will fill and you won't see the seam. But what Terry has done is he's marked this out so that on one side he's ended it in teak and on the other side he started with the holly. So they'll match up nicely when he puts them down.
Thank you, JB. We need to take another time out, but keep it right here because when we come back, we're going to show you how to treat your plywood decking before it goes into the boat to keep it from turning black with water intrusion. We're also going to kind of teach you how to protect the top side so that you can walk on it with high heels if you'd like, and we'll cover it right after this.
Most of the products featured on today's program are available at bigmouthboatsupply.com. Welcome back. The light's still on in the tool shed, which means there's still work to do. What do we have, John?
You know, we are thrilled that you're still with us today here at ShipShape TV, where just before the break we promised you that we were going to give you some tricks of the trade on how to prevent your wood decks from getting the black marks. And that again leads us to our expert, JB Curl. And JB, with our plywood, what do we need to do to it once we actually dry fit it into the boat? What do we need to do to protect it from water wicking in and turning it black?
Okay, John, after we've dry fitted it in, we're going to take our low viscosity epoxy, it's the thinner resin, and a medium hardener, mix it up 2 to 1, and we're going to coat the edges of the plywood. And if we didn't have a subfloor, we would also coat the bottom of it so that water won't penetrate and rot it from the bottom up or come around the sides and lift your finish off.
You're talking about from down in the bilge,
That's
splashing
right.
up potentially and maybe hitting the underside. If it is open to the bilge, seal it, encapsulate
Right.
it with the resin.
That's right.
Okay. Now we have to mix up a thickened bedding material, if you would, in order to laminate it to the subfloor. What are we going to use here?
We can use that same resin and hardener, add some colloidal silica, which is an exploded glass particulate to it, thicken it up like a mayonnaise, put it down with a notched trowel, and then put our wood down into that. That will seal everything from the bottom down and keep it in place.
We've got a thin veneer. What can we do in lieu of varnish to really give it some durability?
Well, what we're going to do is switch to our flag resin, which is a heavier body resin, same hardener, same 2 to 1 ratio, and we'll coat the top of it with the flag resin. We'll just roll some resin on, tip it off with a brush, let that set, and then you can dance on it with high heels and you won't leave a mark in it.
We're going to have to color match, and this is where we will use some varnishes, and there are different brands out in the market with different hues in it, but we're going to have to kind of experiment with that until we find the right color. I want everything when it's done to tie in and look great. JB, if somebody wanted more information on some of these techniques with working with epoxy and everything, do you have a website where maybe somebody could gather some more info?
Sure, John. You can come to our website, and we have great videos on how to work with the epoxies and the fillers and clear coating, a lot of which you've provided for us. Thank you very much. And they're little short 5 to 7 minute segments where they can look right online as to how to use the product. It makes it real simple.
Now, where can somebody buy some of these fillers and these resins and all of that?
They can get the materials at their local marine supply stores, or they can get it through bigmouthboatsupply.com.
All right, one of our sponsors. Well, JB, we need to thank you again. You do such an awesome job. Thanks for that great
Thanks for having me,
advice. Hey, we got a couple other people that we need to thank. World Panel was heavily involved. We had Leif on the program. We had his boss on the program. GMC helped us out. Blowing Rocks Marina. We had my crew working real hard this time, but you know what? The most important one that we need to thank here, that's right, it's been you. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with us on the boat for the last half hour, but we've got to go. But how about this? How about until we see each other again, can you do yourself a favor? Can you get out there and make your boat ship shape? Of course you can. I'm John Graviscus. This is JB Curl. We'll see you next time. JB.